Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate
Om
Vasudevaya.
Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Sarasatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayat Nastaprayeshu Vabhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki. We're reading Srimad Bhagavatam and we're on Canto 11, chapter number 2, text number 31. This chapter is entitled Maharaja Nimi meets with the 9 Yogendras. Dharmam Bhagavatam Bruta Yadina Shrutaye Shamam Yam Prasanna Prapannaya Dashyanti Atmanam Apyaja Dharmam Bhagavatam Bruta Yadina Shrutaye Shamam Ya Prasanna Prapannaya Dashyanti Yatmanam Apyaja Dharmam Bhagavatam Bruta Yadina Shrutaye Shamam Yam Prasana Prapannaya Dashyanti Atmanam Apyaja Dharmam Bhagavatam, the science of devotional service. Bruta, please speak. Yadi, if, na, of us. Shrutaye, to hear properly. Shamam, there is the capacity. Yai, by which devotional service. Prasanna, being satisfied. Prapannaya, to one who has taken shelter. Dashyati, he will give. Atmanam, himself. Api, even. Aja, the unborn Supreme Lord. Translation. Please speak about how one engages in the devotional service of the Supreme Lord, if you consider me capable of properly hearing these topics. When a living entity offers loving service to the Supreme Lord, the Lord is immediately satisfied, and in return he will give even his own self to the surrendered soul. You can repeat. Please speak. About how one engages in the devotional service of the Supreme Lord. if you consider me capable of properly hearing these topics. When a living entity offers loving service to the Supreme Lord, the Lord is immediately satisfied, and in return He will give even His own self. To the surrendered soul. Purport by Srila Prabhupada's disciples. Within the material world, there are two classes of mundane philosophers who present their opinions about the Supreme Lord. Some so-called theologians claim that we are infinitely different from God, and therefore they tend to look upon the Lord as something far beyond our power to understand. So extreme dualistic philosophers, such extreme dualistic philosophers outwardly or officially claim to be pious and religious believers in God, but they consider God so much different from that which is within our experience, that according to them there is little profit in even trying to discuss the personality or attributes of the Supreme Lord. Such outwardly faithful persons generally take to fruitive activities and gross materialistic sense gratification, being infatuated with the mundane relationships of the material world, which appear under the headings society, friendship, and love. The Advaita Vadis, or non-dualistic philosophers, claim that there is no difference between God and the living entity, and that the living entity, and that the highest goal of life is to give up our personal existence, which is due to illusion, and merge into the impersonal Brahman effulgence, which is devoid of name, form, paraphernalia, and personality. Thus, neither class of speculative philosophers is able to understand the transcendental personality of Godhead. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, in his sublime teaching of Achintya Bhed Abheda Tattva, or simultaneously oneness and difference, has clearly demonstrated that there are that we are qualitatively one with God and quantitatively different. God is personal consciousness, and He has His personal form. Similarly, we are also personal consciousness, and ultimately, when liberated, we also have eternal forms. The difference is that the eternal form and personality of the Supreme Lord contain unlimited potency and opulence, whereas our potency and opulence are infinitesimal. We are conscious of our personal body, whereas Lord Krishna, the Absolute Truth, is conscious of everyone's body, as stated in Bhagavad Gita. Kshetrajam chapimam vidhi sarva kshetreshu bharata. But although God is infinitely greater than the living entity, both God and the living entity are eternal personalities with form, activities, and feelings. The Supreme Lord Krishna expands himself into innumerable living entities to enjoy rasas or ecstatic relationships with them. The living entities are part and parcel of Lord Krishna, and they are meant to serve him with love. Although the Supreme Lord is eternally the predominator, and the living entity is eternally the predominated, when the living entity surrenders unto the Lord with a sincere, loving attitude, existing or desiring to serve the Lord eternally without the slightest expectation of personal reward for such service, the Lord immediately is pleased to, as expressed here by the word prasanna. Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is so unlimitedly merciful and magnanimous that in his gratitude to such a surrendered and loving servitor, he is inclined to offer anything, even himself, to his surrendered devotee. There are numerous practical, historical examples of this loving propensity of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Because of the love of Mother Yashoda, child Krishna, in the form of Damodar, surrendered himself to his loving mother and allowed himself to be bound with ropes as a childhood punishment. Similarly, feeling indebted to the Pandavas for their intense love for him, Krishna, in his form as Partha Sarati, happily agreed to drive the chariot of Arjuna in the battlefield of Kurukshetra. Similarly, Krishna in Vrindavan is always thinking of ways to satisfy the gopis, who are universally recognized as the most exalted, loving devotees of the Lord. Such intense loving feelings exchanged between the Lord and his pure devotee would not be possible were the living entities not qualitatively one with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and indeed inseparable parts and parcels of the Lord. On the other hand, because both the Supreme Personality of Godhead and the living entities are eternally individual, each with his own eternal individual consciousness. Such loving exchanges are a perpetual reality in the kingdom of God. In other words, absolute oneness with God and absolute difference from God are theoretical imaginations of different schools of speculative philosophy. The perfection of spiritual love, as described in this verse, is based on simultaneous oneness and difference. And this absolute reality was elaborately presented by Lord Krishna himself in his Brahminical incarnation as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. The followers of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu have expounded this perfect doctrine in innumerable books, culminating in the teachings of His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, who has most perfectly presented the knowledge in a way that is understandable not only in India, but to all the people of the world. Our present insignificant attempt is to simply complete his translation and commentary on Srimad Bhagavatam, and we are constantly praying for his guidance so that this work can simply be completed exactly as he would have desired it, as he would have desired. If one can understand these teachings of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as they are being presented in Western language, surely the Lord will be satisfied with such a sincere seeker of spiritual truth. Om Jnana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chaksurunmilitanyena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhaevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namah. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Rama. Maharaj Nimi is putting a question to the 9 Yogendras. He wants to know about the nature of loving service to the Supreme Lord. And you can see from the question, how he's worded it, that he already knows a lot. And he knows that the Lord can be satisfied by the service of the devotees. Of course, the Lord is always satisfied in himself, but he feels a special satisfaction with his devotee. Just like we were speaking about Advaita Acharya, how Advaita Acharya offered Ganga water and tulsi leaves to the Lord, and he called to the Lord to come. Advaita Acharya knew that if the Lord is satisfied with the appeals of the devotee, then the Lord will give Himself to the devotee. And it happened. Mahaprabhu personally came to the world because of the desire of Advaita Acharya. So the Lord gives Himself to the surrendered devotee. Lord Krishna is known as Bhaktavatsala, that He will reciprocate with the devotion of His devotees. He reciprocates with their mood. He does not reciprocate with the jnanis. He is not Jnana-vatsala or Karma-vatsala. He is only reciprocating with the devotees, with their bhakti, with their devotion. We know from the Bhagavad Gita how Lord Krishna had emphasized the importance of devotion, that it's by devotion that He could be understood. So here again the same point is being made, that the Lord can be satisfied, immediately satisfied in return, and He will give His own self to the surrendered soul. Krishna said, as you surrender, I will reward you accordingly. So if someone has fully surrendered, if they've surrendered purely, out of pure love, then the Lord will give Himself. Surrender is not always based on pure love. Sometimes there are motivations to surrender. But when the surrender is pure, then the Lord appreciates that this devotee has given so much to me. So Srila Prabhupada cites some examples in the purport about surrendered souls and how they gave so much to Krishna, and Lord Krishna reciprocated with them. Just like Arjuna, because he was so surrendered to Lord Krishna, the Lord Krishna became his chariot driver. And similarly, Mother Yashoda. Mother Yashoda, of course, she's Nityasiddha, she is always Krishna's mother. And she can tie up Krishna. She can chastise Krishna. So she's such a great devotee that Krishna gives Himself to the control of her pure devotion. And then the purport also mentions about the gopis, how they gave everything for the service of Lord Krishna. And Lord Krishna said, Naparayaham, I cannot repay you for everything you've given me. There's no way I can repay you. You will have to you will have to be satisfied in yourself. The Lord said like that. Of course, the Lord tries to give Himself to the devotees. He tries to repay the debt to the gopis. He reciprocates with their pure love. So in this purport, they begin with describing two different kinds of philosophers. And neither of them are able to understand the nature of the Lord, that He is a person with characteristics and with qualities. Right? The first class which was mentioned were some mental speculators who think that, well, God is so great, there's no way you could ever understand Him. He's so far away from us. He's so big, he's so powerful, everything is just way beyond us. So we shouldn't even try to think about him, because it's just inconceivable to our limited brain. So they don't make any attempt to even understand the Lord. And generally, these kind of people go on to become materialistic-minded people. They become karmavadis. They just want to enjoy the fruit of their work. Of course, there's a lot of people like that, and even there are some religious sects who teach like that God is so great. If you ask them about God, who is God, can you tell us about, oh, He is so great, you cannot understand Him. They will say like this. They think, oh, it's impossible for us to know about the Lord. They cannot understand how the Lord reciprocates with His devotees, and He can reveal Himself to the devotees. When He's pleased with the service of a devotee, then the Lord allows the devotees to understand Him and to come to them. And this is described, of course, in Bhagavad Gita. Tesham satata yuktanam bhajatam priti purvakam. To those who are constantly devoted to me and worship me with love, I give the understanding by which they can come to me. There are many verses in the Bhagavad Gita where Krishna is talking about that reciprocation between him and the devotee. Just like Yoga Kshema Vahamiyaham, the famous verse in Bhagavad Gita. Krishna said, I carry what they lack and I preserve what they have. Why? Because they've so devoted themselves, they're so absorbed in the thought and in the service of Krishna. They can't think of anything else but Krishna. And Krishna says, I carry what they lack, I preserve what they have. So the Lord reveals Himself to the devotee. Just like Arjuna, on the battlefield at Kurukshetra, before the battle, Lord Krishna showed the Vishwarup, that universal form. And the Lord Krishna gave Arjuna divine eyes to see that universal form. So it's possible that if the Lord feels we are qualified, He will reveal Himself to us. And we're so fortunate that we have so many scriptures, all describing the glories of the Lord and His wonderful qualities and His form and His activities. So everything is revealed to us. Of course, classes of people, some class of people, they will not accept these scriptures, just like Advaitavadis. Advaitavadis, they will only accept the Vedas. They will not accept Shruti. They will not accept Smriti. They will accept Shruti. Shruti meaning the 4 Vedas. But they won't accept Smriti. Smriti means Puranas, Bhagavad Gita, Mahabharata. These things, this is all in the category of Smriti. So, Advaitavadis, they don't accept. They don't accept. If you were talking to them and you're trying to explain to them, If you're talking to them, trying to explain to them, you cannot quote Bhagavad Gita because they don't accept Bhagavad Gita, because that's Smriti. You have to quote Shruti. And of course we can do it. And you'll see also Prabhupada's purports. Prabhupada often quotes, he said, the Shruti statement is, and he'll give a verse from some Upanishad, because that's what the Advaitavadis like to quote, you know. If you go to hear people like, you know, Ramakrishna Mission, you know, Jnanavadis, you know, they will only speak on Upanishads, or they will speak on the Vedas. They're not going to speak on Srimad Bhagavatam, right? So they have a different philosophy. Their philosophy, they say, ultimately, there's only the oneness. They don't speak about any variety. There's simply the oneness. As they say here, the Advaitavadis claim there is no difference between God and the living entity. Look, they claim that we're all God. But the Vedas say, Nityo Nityanam Chaitananas Chaitananam Eko Bahunam Yo Vidati Kama. When you quote that verse to the Advaitavadis, they run away. They have no answer. Because that verse is stating very clearly that amongst all eternal beings is one supreme eternal being. And amongst all conscious beings is one supreme conscious being. And that one supreme Lord is maintaining the needs of all others. So, very clearly showing that it's not all one. There's a difference. Just like living entities, we are one with the Lord in the sense that we are Brahman. Yes, we are Brahman, and the Lord is also Brahman, but there's a difference. He is the Para-Brahman. He is the Supreme Brahman. We are not the Supreme Brahman. We are tiny sparks of the Brahman. There's a difference. There's a oneness and there's a difference. And similarly, we are Brahman, we are eternal. Yes, our spirit souls are eternal. As spiritual beings, we're eternal. And the Lord is also eternal. But He is eternally the predominator, and we are eternally predominated. We are the servants, and He is the master. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu explained this doctrine of Achintya Bhed Abheda Tattva. Achintya, inconceivable, simultaneously one and at the same time different. We're one with God, but at the same time we are different from Him. So this allows us to understand something of the nature of the Supreme Lord. And so many scriptures are there describing the qualities and the activities and the pastimes of the Lord. It's not all just by chance. It's not beyond our imagination to understand. We can understand. The Lord reveals Himself to the devotees. We just have to hear carefully. So like this, we want to understand how the Lord is reciprocating with his devotees. Reciprocation. We are endeavoring to attract the Lord. Of course, how much he likes people to chant the holy name. He said, Naham tishtani vaikunte yoginam hridayeshu va tatra tishtani narada yatra gayanti madbhakta. The Lord said, I am not in Vaikuntha, the spiritual world, and I am not in the hearts of the yogis meditating on me. But I am wherever my devotee is chanting my holy name. My devotee, like Narada, wherever he is chanting my holy name, then that attracts the Lord. So the Lord is a person. He has feeling. If we say God is not a person, then it means that we are something He is not. We are persons and He's not a person. Then we're denying Him. We're minimizing the position of the Supreme Lord if He is impersonal. Because we are persons, we are made in the image of God. And He is the Supreme Person. We are tiny persons. Mame vamsa jiva loke, jiva bhuta sanatana. The living entities are all my parts and parcels eternally. So we have that connection to the Lord. We have some relationship to Him. We have to cultivate that relationship by Bhakti, the path of Bhakti, which is all about hearing and chanting and remembering these things. And if we engage wholeheartedly in these activities, then the Lord is attracted, He's obliged to that devotee. In 18th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna said, one who surrenders to me, who gives up all religious activities, all religion which is materially motivated, if they surrender to me, then I will free them from all sinful reactions. And he said, do not fear. The Lord is giving reassurance that I will free you from all sinful reactions. Do not fear. So this is again the reciprocation of the Lord with the loving service of the devotee. But He wants complete surrender, complete service. It cannot be mixed, right? Mishra Bhakti, that is mixed devotion. Oh, some devotion is there, but some desires are also there. Material desires. That's not the way. We want pure devotion. Mahaprabhu wants to teach about pure devotion. And Rupa Goswami defined it for us. And there's a couple of verses, of course, right? Sarvapadi vinnirmuktam tad paratvena nirmalam rishikesha rishikena sevanam bhaktir uchate. One who gives up all upadis, designations, upadis, these designations. This is the bondage of the material world. We designate ourselves. I am sannyasi, right? My danda. We have many designations in the material world. So we have to give up these designations. Lord Krishna wants us to simply understand our designation as a servant of Krishna. Sarvupadi vinirmuktam tat paratvena nirmalam. Right? You give up all kinds of desires and attachments to the material world, and we simply engage Rishikesha Rishikena Sevanam, engaging our senses in the service of Krishna. That is pure devotion. And when Krishna sees that pure devotion, Krishna reciprocates. He gives himself to the devotee. He comes himself. Just like when Draupadi was, when they were trying to disrobe Draupadi, the Kauravas, they took the Pandavas to in a game of dice, and they cheated the Pandavas, and then they got the Pandavas to wager Draupadi. And when they took Draupadi, that now she is ours, and they dragged her, and she was in a contaminated period at that time, but they dragged her out and they tried to disrobe her. And the Pandavas were her husbands, but they could not do anything. Maharaja Yudhishthira would not allow them to do anything. And they could not go to Draupadi to help her. So she just had only Lord Krishna there, no other shelter but Lord Krishna. And she took full and initially she was fighting and trying to keep the sari on, and she was fighting, but finally she realized, just let me take shelter of Krishna. And she let go, and she put her hands up in the air and she called out, "Hey Govinda," and the Lord came as her unlimited sari. The Lord reciprocated. He gave himself to protect the chastity of his devotee in the most wonderful way. So Lord Krishna is like that. He is never ungrateful to any service which we do for him. And you do just a little service. Neha bikramana shosti pratyavayona vijate swalpam apyasya dharmasya trayate mahato bayat. Just a little amount of service, that it can save you from the greatest danger. And what is the greatest danger? The danger is that we may lose this human form of life. You may take an animal form of life. So that's a very dangerous situation. But if we just do a little service, then it guarantees at least you will get a human body. And if we fully give ourselves up to Krishna, then the Lord promises that He will take us home. He will deliver us back to Godhead, to the spiritual world. So we want to learn, we want to trust Lord Krishna. You know, in material world, it's the cheaters and the cheated. There's so many scams on the internet. Your hard-earned money can be taken from you very easily in some internet scam. And it happens. Even devotees have lost a lot of money. But if you give everything to Krishna, then that is the greatest credit. You surrender fully everything to Krishna, then you get the greatest benefit. Krishna will take full responsibility for the devotee. Just like when we come to Krishna consciousness, we're declaring war on the material energy. And we're leaving behind the material world. Maybe you're giving up a job, maybe you're giving up even mother and father, a home, family connection. You're giving it up to come to Krishna consciousness. But Krishna takes note that this devotee, they've given everything for my service. They didn't come for their own sense gratification, but they came simply to serve me. So Lord Krishna appreciates that, and he will reciprocate with the devotee. He will take care of them. He said, I carry what you lack, and I maintain what you have. So we're never the loser by coming to Krishna, by surrendering to Krishna. It is simply foolishness to think that, oh, why should I give to Krishna? No, it's the proper thing to do, to give everything to Krishna. And Krishna, being pleased by that, he gives himself to the devotee. Krishna comes, and he is the deliverer from birth and death. That is the greatest repayment, that the Lord comes and he picks us up out of the ocean of material existence and takes us back to Godhead. So, this is the mood. A devotee, of course, he's not saying, oh Krishna, you have to save me. Gajendra, he had that mood, but later on Gajendra regretted that. Gajendra was in distress, and he prayed to the Lord to save him. And the Lord did. But after he saved Gajendra, Gajendra was not happy. Rather, Gajendra said, you killed the crocodile, you should have killed me. It would have been better if you'd killed me rather than the crocodile. But Gajendra said, I'm in this elephant body. You should have killed me. Let me get out, let me get free from this body. The crocodile got free of his body by the grace of the Lord. And the crocodile, of course, was more fortunate because he had taken shelter of the foot of a devotee. Gajendra was a devotee, and the crocodile was holding his foot. So because he'd taken shelter of one of the lotus feet of a devotee, so the Lord delivered him. But Gajendra had to stay longer in his elephant body. So we want to understand how the Lord deals, how he reciprocates. As you surrender, I reward everyone accordingly. You think of Krishna 10 minutes a day, Krishna may think of you 12 minutes a day. Right? We have to endeavor to think more of Krishna. For one who always remembers me, I'm easy to obtain because of his constant engagement in devotional service. If we're always remembering Krishna, then we will always be engaged in some service, chanting the holy name, making flower garlands, cooking, doing some kind of service for Krishna. So this is the message from the verse today, that we want to keep ourselves fully engaged in the service of Lord Krishna. And in that way, Lord Krishna will reciprocate. He will reveal everything. And He will take us out of this world of birth and death. Okay, are there any questions? Yes? Yes? You want the mic?
Thank you for the class, Maharaj. Many times I heard in the class that as we surrender, Krishna awards accordingly. So, and Krishna is so grateful to our surrender that he is ready to give himself even. But we hear so many principles like I'm not this body, Krishna is the only enjoyer, but it remains on a surface level, or it remains artificial. When it does not go to the core of our heart. In the core of our heart, we still feel that yes, we have this body only, we have to enjoy like that. Means we cannot give it up. So how can we increase this degree of surrender? How can we actually, from the core of our heart, we can accept these instructions which is coming from Krishna and Guru and Sadhu?
Well, you could start by shaving your head.
But like just now this and you told my mindset, but this is not practical for me.
Well, that is you saying what's practical, you see. You have these ideas, what's practical. You have these restrictions about considerations, you see. We have to give up all of these things. And you see, this is how you surrender. You have to do these kind of things. And you don't question, oh, this is not practical, that's not practical. People will say, oh, shaving my head, no, it's not practical. Or wearing dhoti, it's not practical. Or, putting on tilak, it's not practical. But somebody else surrendered, they do all these things. And they do it, and they make advancement by doing it. Just by doing it. It's not such a big thing. Once you do it, initially you think, not practical, no. We have all these doubts. But once you do it, you realize that actually this is how we can come closer to Krishna, by doing these things. Because we do get very attached. We're very attached to the hair. We're very attached to the body, the skin. One day that hair of yours is going to go all grey and will drop out, So you're attached to it just now as a young man. You think, oh, the young ladies, they won't like me with a shaved head. But you shave you give up, you make some sacrifice for Krishna. Then Krishna takes note. This person's made a sacrifice. He did this for me. He did it for my pleasure. Krishna takes note of these things and starts to help. He wants us to come to Him. Krishna wants us back to Godhead. He's sending Prabhupada and devotees here to deliver us. He comes himself and speaks Bhagavad Gita. He's trying to help us all to get out of this material bondage. But we're saying, well, it's not practical. You know, you have so many reservations. It's just another reservation. It's an attachment. We have to just surrender. And it means giving up all of these kind of considerations. What is practical and what is not practical. Yeah. Yeah, okay. You know, you have to understand, you know, that one day you're going to have to surrender. Whether you like it or not, one day you're going to have to surrender. Krishna comes as death, take away everything. So it's better that you've already surrendered rather than you're forced to surrender. It's better that you surrender voluntary. Just like Prabhupada explained, some people say, oh, I don't like to bow down. Why I have to bow down? Some people think like that. But what somebody else, they bow down and they're experiencing loving service to Krishna. Other people, they don't want to bow down, but they're forced to bow down. They have to bow down to old age, and they have to bow down to disease, and they have to bow down to death. So gradually, everybody has to bow down. It's better to bow down voluntary than be forced to bow down. So like that, you want to surrender, better to surrender voluntary rather than be forced to surrender. But one day you will have to surrender. You have to surrender the material body. It's temporary. You have to give it up. You've had so many bodies, so many lifetimes. Give this one life for the service of Krishna. It's not a loss. It's for your greatest benefit. Okay. Some other question? Yes?
Maharaj, you were speaking about the personal form of the Lord. The Lord is personal, but the Mayavadi think other way around. When we think about the Lord's personal form and the activities, sometimes it bewilders even the devotees. For example, when Lord Nityananda happened to kick Sivananda Sen, then the wife of Sivananda Sen got bewildered. Or when Lord Chaitanya was exhibiting the symptom of ecstasy in Puri, the devotee of Lord Jagannath, Prabhupada Maharaj got bewildered. When Rukmini Devi, she got bewildered when Krishna happened to do saving of his brother-in-law. So we find that the activities of the Lord, when he does human-like activities, or it seems to be built that even great soul will not speak of us who are so fallen. So how do we elevate our consciousness? In a way we can appreciate the transcendental form and these activities.
Well, we have to hear from the scriptures. We have to hear regularly from the scriptures. We hear the teachings and everything as they're described. If we hear from the scriptures, then there's no reason to doubt what we're reading, that we accept the authority of the Shastra. We're not like the monists who only accept Shruti. Rather, Shruti, Smriti, Puranadi, Pancharatriki vidimbinam aikantiki hararbhatya utpatayaiva kalpate. That we accept all the different scriptures, then if we follow something without scriptural reference, then it's simply a disturbance to society. But we're accepting not just only Shruti, but we also accept the Smriti and the Pancharatras, the Pancharatriki, all the different Shastras. They're authorized scriptures. So we read about the form of the Lord there. And we see in the temple the Lord's form as it has appeared in the deity form. The Lord incarnates in the deity form. So it's not just something we're hearing about in the scriptures, but we can actually see every day the form of the Lord. That He's here for us to see. So we can understand definitely that the form of the Lord is not illusory. And then different behavior, different activities done by great devotees, that they have to be understood again by scriptures. Just like Srivas Pandit had gone to Devananda Pandit and he'd felt some ecstasy in hearing the Srimad Bhagavatam. And the students there could not understand that this is bhava. And they thought he's just a disturbance. And they dragged him out. So Mahaprabhu blamed them, that they should have been educated to understand what is the nature of transcendental love. Bhava is the ecstatic emotion experienced due to the pure love of the devotee. But Devananda Pandit had not understood this, and his students also could not understand. So Mahaprabhu chastised them, said, "You're not understanding Srimad Bhagavatam. The whole Srimad Bhagavatam is about bhava, about developing that ecstasy, that mood of loving service to the Lord. And when somebody displays the bhava, you manhandle them, you drag them out the temple. So this is very wrong. So we have to recognize these things. We have to recognize, and the scriptures are there to help us understand these things. Of course, we were saying ecstasy, bhava, let the people go in another room. Don't disturb people in the temple, but let them go into a private place somewhere. Go away from everyone and be in ecstasy. Don't just make a show in the public for everyone. Okay. Yes, Prabhu had some question.
Thank you for this class. Maharaj, you were mentioning about how Draupadi was saved by the Lord, and so my question is related to the Pandavas, that when Vishnudev, he sees the suffering of the Pandavas at the end, he is lamenting and is thinking that what are the ways of the Supreme Lord, that they are such great devotees, but still they are put into so much of tribulation, and it is impossible in this way to understand what is the plan and the mind of the Supreme Lord for the devotees. Similarly, I see that in our movement also, like we see from time to time the different acharyas have come, and For now we understand Bhaktivinoda Thakur was a great devotee, Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur was a great devotee. But when they were in their times, they were not followed by a mass number of people, maybe a few 100,000, maximum 10,000 on the whole globe. So even Srila Prabhupada's Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur Maharaj, his two prominent disciples who were like his very close associate of Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur, they fighted among each other on a court case and they fell down from a spiritual position. Even after departure of Srila Prabhupada, we see like all of you have kept faith in his words and you are going on. But many of his followers could not keep that same faith. Similarly, down the line, now in our present days also, we see that there are many types of devotional sentiments that have risen up, and not all of them are according to what is aligned with the desire and the books of Srila Prabhupada. So how do you see this, that Lord is sending, trying to deliver the souls, but He's keeping the bar of Maya so high that people are not able to understand the right path?
Well, like I said, you have to follow Shastra. Whatever you're doing, you have to support it with evidence from the Shastra. Yeah, some people come to Krishna consciousness, and of course people also leave. They don't always continue, and they go off, and maybe they go some other path, or maybe they make their own independent attempts to cultivate Krishna consciousness. Srila Prabhupada didn't mind that. He understood these things, but he wanted that they should accept the philosophy, even if they go outside of Krishna consciousness. If they keep the philosophy, they follow the principles, they chant the holy name, he doesn't mind. Not everybody has to stay within the ISKCON society. So it's up to every individual. If they're not comfortable in the society, then they can go out and they can make their own little temple and have their own programs. Nothing wrong. Of course then they'll realize how difficult it is. When you try to do things on your own, then you'll realize it's really not an easy thing. But still, people want to do that. They have free will. We cannot force people. So there will be these things happening in the course of time. Deviations arise also, different deviations in the sampradaya. There's so many, I think 13 different types of apa sampradaya. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur recognized these different apa sampradayas. We have to be careful to avoid them. There are these things. People invent some other mantra, they want to chant something else. We get so many different deviations coming. So we have to be careful and guard against these things. And people want to do something else, then they go outside of ISKCON. If you're not going to follow Prabhupada's teaching, you're going to chant some other new mantra, then you have to go out of ISKCON, make your own place, have your own society. We cannot force everyone that you have to stay in ISKCON. You can go out. If you cannot follow, you cannot work cooperatively, then go out and do your own thing. And of course we can also respect them, but we have to also admit that they have deviated from the previous acharya. They've come up, they've maybe speculated or concocted, and they've come up with a new idea, a new mantra. These things happen in the course of time. It happened in the time of Bhaktivinoda. When he was on the planet, it happened. There were people deviating, and Bhaktivinoda was telling him that this mantra is nonsense, this is not a proper mantra. But the man wouldn't accept. What can be done? We try. Okay, any other question? Yes, Prabhu? Over here.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Maharaj, sometimes devotees are assigned specific services such as preaching in colleges. As you mentioned, surrender can begin with acts like shaving the head. However, while this step may be something we wish to take, it could potentially interfere with our preaching duties or be challenging in certain situations. In such cases, is it acceptable to skip this step, or is there a different approach to consider?
A different approach to consider in order to do preaching work?
In colleges.
In the colleges? What, you're saying things like shaving the head and so on?
Yes, sir.
They're not really necessary? Maybe you need to read the question again. Let me hear it again.
Like, if we shave our head, then in college, preaching in college might get impact. So it is advised that we should not shave our head. So what we can do in this step?
Well, a lot of people have shaved heads these days, It's not just devotees, there are many people with shaved heads.
But when we are preaching in college with shaven head, so students might feel that if we follow our path, then we'll have to shave our head also. So they will try to avoid our path.
Well, if they're thinking like that, then they're not very good candidates for devotional service. If they think like that, I don't have much hope for them coming into Krishna consciousness. College preaching. Yeah, we do want to preach in the colleges. We do want to preach to the educated people. Prabhupada encouraged that. He said, people who are educated, then it's good that when they come to Krishna consciousness. But, we don't have a requirement on these things. We don't say, oh no, you have to do this. But if you say, I want to surrender, I'm trying to surrender, then we're keeping so many attachments which are stopping us from surrender. So sometimes it happens like that. We do get attached to the bodily concept of life. And we have to be careful. Try to give up that bodily concept of life. You're teaching people you're not the body and you're worried about shaving the head. It's contradictory. If we're not the body, we don't care if we have hair or not. You know, it's not a big deal. No. We want people to be detached from the bodily consciousness. That bodily consciousness, that is the cause of our problem. That we're so attached to the body. So, we try to show an example to people. This is why we wear dhotis and we wear these clothes like that. We're showing people that we're practicing some kind of renunciation. Of course, you may say, well, I have a job, or my girlfriend doesn't like it. My girlfriend wants me to have some hair. And so, these kind of things are there. But Prabhupada definitely, he liked to see people with short, if they have hair, they should be short hair. We didn't like long hair, you know. Short hair, all right. They have to be neat. And if you're serious, if you really do it, you know, it's not a big deal. Initially we're thinking, oh, it's so many problems, oh, it'll be difficult. But once you do it, people don't worry about it. It's not a problem. So the students, they see you, no, okay, you've got a shaved head. They can understand. You're renounced. That's what you're coming to teach them about, renunciation. They want to see some kind of renunciation. If all the students come and they have long hair, you know, down to their shoulders, it's not very good. You know, we get our strength by cutting the hair, by shaving the head. The Mayavadis, they get their strength by having long hair. The Tantric yogis, they will have long hair. But devotees, we like to have shaved head, short hair. So dealing with students, I don't think it's a problem. Acharya Ratna Prabhu was telling me, he said, in the USA, he said, you can go on the campus in dhoti and kirta, and you can go there and you can distribute books around the campus. And it helps to have a shaved head. You want to have these things because then people will be a bit more curious to know what's going on. What are you doing, you know? But if you me clothes, just look like everybody else, yeah, I don't think it's not very attractive. We want to show the mood, spiritual life. Spiritual life, spiritual dress, spiritual fashion. Okay. All right, any other questions? Yes, Prabhu, you have a question? Yeah?
When we practice devotional service, then sometimes it's very difficult to deal with the mind. The mind being having so many anarthas for so many lifetimes, even after long years of practicing Krishna consciousness, many times it's difficult to deal with the minds and arthas and so many minds dealing with the dualities of success, failure, ups and downs. So many things happen in life. So how to make sure that our mind is fixed on Krishna, and how to make sure that we take right decisions, because due to mind's vasanas, old vasanas, the mind sometimes overcomes even spiritual intelligence. And as Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, so how to rise above the mind's cheating or mind's vasanas and all other things.
But just by chanting Hare Krishna, this is the power of the holy name. To call out the holy name and you can transcend the mind. It's not a big problem. You just call out to Krishna and the holy name is there to deliver us from the mind. So this is the power of Sankirtan, that you can conquer the mind and you can come to the spiritual platform. We get detached from the body by taking part in Sankirtan. Loudly chanting, calling out the holy name. There's a devotee from Delhi, Kratu Prabhu. Do you know Kratu Prabhu? He wrote a book about the mind, how to deal with the mind. He has a whole book and it's all excerpts from the Srimad Bhagavatam. So many different people are described from the Bhagavatam and how they were dealing with the mind, how they conquered the mind. So concentration of the mind by chanting the holy name, and by, just like the Brahmana from Avanti Desh, he took shelter of the super soul. He had a mantra, he was chanting a mantra, and he would take shelter of the super soul. So you can do like that. Cultivate spiritual knowledge. Spiritual knowledge can help to conquer the mind. The more we read Prabhupada's books, it will take us up from the mental platform. Because you're hearing from spiritual authority, you're reading the Shastra, so you get perfect knowledge there. So take shelter of the scriptures, the holy name, or the spiritual teachers, Sadhu, Shastra and Guru. They're always good. They will always help you to get free from the material energy. Okay, I think we have to stop here today. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki.